Welcome back, everybody, to the Knights of the Dawn podcast. I'm Jessica.
And I'm Megan.
And we are here to begin our reviews of the third book of the Fablehaven series. Today we're going to be doing chapters 1 through 6, which is Nipsies through Plague, and sharing our thoughts and ideas and impressions. Just a quick forewarning, though. I am feeling a little bit under the weather. My nose is a bit stuffed. And my throat's a bit scratchy, so excuse me if I have to sneeze, cough, sniffle, and or all of the above during this recording.
Yeah, we'll try to cut that out as much as we can, but just so you know.
It's a possibility.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is the beginning of third book, Grip of the Shadow Plague, and this is one of my favorite books in the series, so I'm really excited to get into it.
Yeah. Where did we end up, because at this point, I believe we've already released our tier list. Where did we rank this book on our tier list?
I believe in the A tier. I'd say I took a picture. Hold on.
I want to say as well, your A tier.
So yeah, if you guys don't know what we're talking about, we released a YouTube video talking about where we rank all of Brandon Mull's books, and we did a tier list and
of his main series.
Yeah, of all his series, and this one, interesting. It actually ended at the bottom of the A.
Oh, it snuck in, did it?
Yeah, but it's still above book 1 and 2. So.
Interesting. I like that. Okay, cool.
So, yeah.
All right, so if you want to hear more about our analysis, because obviously we're only going to get into the first 6 chapters of this book today, but if you want to hear our general analysis in that video, please go ahead and check it out. We had a lot of fun during that one.
Yeah, if you want to hear general thoughts about every one of the books, check that out. So, yeah, I like how this book begins. It's just Seth going off doing things he's not supposed to be doing, but in a way helps everyone, which is kind of funny.
He's doing it responsibly.
Yes, he is definitely. I like these chapters because Seth has matured more and gotten a little smarter about how to break the rules and when to break the rules, and he still has the goal of getting rich off of gold, but he's more responsible about it.
So he's like no more stealing gold because that nearly got him mugged last time. No more he's like, it's gotta be clean, it's gotta have no strings attached. And he's being very smart about it.
Yeah, he's learning from his mistakes. And so he's decided to go to the Nipsies, which Newell and Doran have been going to them. They're these little tiny,
quarter-inch tall, I believe.
Really, really, really small. I think a quarter inch. So tiny little people who have their own, kingdoms and society. And Newell and Doran have declared themselves the supreme gigantic overlords of the Nipsies because they, quote-unquote, protect them or something. But when they get to the Nipsies, they find out that something strange is happening with some of the kingdoms of the Nipsies, and that 2 of the kingdoms have turned dark.
Mm-hmm. And I love how, later on in the section, we kind of get an explanation. They're like, well, did they fall? Because, we have fairies and naiads who could fall into a fallen state. There's imps for fairies, and then there's just, mortality for naiads. But now we have, these Nipsies who are just dark, and we're like, well, that's not the same thing. And I love how even Newell and Doran are like, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah, they can tell something's off. And so, because when they get there, the Nipsies who have not turned dark are these other Nipsies are trying to invade our other kingdoms and we need your help. And so I think it was Doran who decided.
It's Newell.
It's Newell. It's Newell who decides to take down the invading armies of the Nipsies, which is kind of funny to picture because there's thousands of Nipsies, but they're all so small that the kingdom doesn't take up more than
the inside of a hill.
Yeah, it's like a giant civilization inside a tiny it's so small. So it's kind of funny to imagine big giant Newell going in and taking down the tiny little Nipsies.
Like, I think a good way, like, Seth described, like, their warships that the dark Nipsies were making were about the size of his shoe. So I'm putting it, like, the same scale as, like, you know, like, those really intricate, like, ships that you make in a bottle. Ships in a bottle.
Yeah.
Like, I think about that scale. Like, if those ships were fully manned by crew, and then, like, just imagine an entire civilization.
Yeah.
Cool, right?
It's cool, but also, like, crazy.
Love the world building.
I guess kind of the funny thing that comes to my mind is, you know, in Lilo and Stitch, when Stitch, like, makes, like, a city in Lilo's house. And he's, like, the giant, like, walking around, kicking and breaking stuff, like...
No more caffeine for you.
Yeah. I know Newell was, like, trying not to do damage, but that's just kind of, like, what comes to mind. Like, a giant creature going around, like...
To their perspective, like, thousands of feet tall, just, like, completely destroying all of their, like, war efforts.
Yeah.
And undermining them. Like, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah. That's just kind of what came to my mind. But then, so, the Nipsies are so grateful to Newell and Doran. The good Nipsies are grateful.
The other ones promise vengeance.
Yeah, the other ones are like, watch your back, because we're coming after you. But like the good Nipsies are so grateful that they let Newell and Doran and Seth take gold and riches and stuff from them as in payment for their help. And Seth is like, oh, cool, I got what I wanted, but now he's kind of like, this is a problem. And he has to try and figure out how to tell Grandpa without getting in trouble.
And I love how, like, you see it, like, eat away at him for, like, the next chapter, too, where he's just like... Ugh.
He's like stewing over it.
Like, I did something bad by their standards, not mine.
Yeah.
And I learned very useful and probably information that Grandpa needs to hear. But if I tell him, that also prevents him from getting to do stuff that he enjoys, like going out and wandering off into the forest.
Yeah. He's got to, like, do, like, self-incrimination for the greater good, basically.
And I absolutely adore how the secret ends up coming out.
Yes.
Okay, so...
We'll talk about that scene.
Yeah, we're fasting forward a little bit. But before that, we get to Kendra, who is, like, literally stewing outside of the quiet box.
Yeah.
Just about, like we're immediately jumping back into the mystery that we were left off of in the last book, where we're just wondering, is the Sphinx a traitor? And, like, I love how everybody is just, like... crap, because not that this is the first time he's been accused, like they say that it has happened before, but this is the first time that there has been circumstantial evidence enough to warrant deeper investigation. And they're trying.
They literally sent Warren off to try and, like, figure out where the Sphinx comes from.
And they sent Tanu to investigate the fallen preserve in Brazil to see if he could A, find Maddox, and B, find the artifact, and C, figure out if the Sphinx was involved at all. And he failed in every one of those aspects, unfortunately. The only way he succeeded was in leaving a escape route for Maddox if he finds it. So, who, if anybody has forgotten, is the fairy broker, Maddox Fisk, who we met in book 1. Fun guy.
So, Kendra's just sitting outside of the quiet box thinking about Vanessa. And I think this is what Vanessa wanted. She wanted, like, Kendra to, like, be thinking about it. And, like,
specifically to be thinking about her.
And
what,
like,
she could know.
Yeah, because now to Kendra, Vanessa represents, like, answers to their questions and their problems.
Which she is.
She is. But it's also part of, you know, the manipulation of Vanessa to try and get her out of the quiet box. So.
The plot thickens.
Yes.
So Kendra also ends up starting to study, like the old journals of Pat and Burgess, and we get some really nice Pat and Lena, like, journal entry, like, where Patton's just, like, celebrating the fact that he did manage to to convince Lena to leave the pond. And it's just such a sweet little passage in his journal where he's just, like, so happy and jubilant, and, like, I'm just reading this and I'm like, get you a man who looks at you like Pat and Burgess looks at Lena.
Oh, yeah. I know. Like, that whole scene where she's, like, reading the journal from Patton. So good.
All right, so before Kendra gets to the journal, though, they do have a conversation with Warren, who is also returned, like, who, as we said, was returned from his investigations.
Exploits. Yeah.
And he's like, well, one additional thing. We're having a gathering. The Knights of the Dawn are getting together for the first time in 10 years. Whoop, whoop. Family reunion. Only problem, and I can just see him, like, just, like, biting his words, like, just knowing this is not going to go over well.
Like, well, yeah.
All right, just gotta throw the fat in the fire. Kendra needs to come. And it goes about as well as he's expecting.
Yeah, Grandma and Grandpa are like, excuse you, what are you talking about?
And I really do like, though, how they reason through it.
Yeah. Well, and, like, they're thinking of it, like, every way possible, because they're like, well, the Knights of the Dawn are, like, the group fighting against the society, and everyone suspects that the Sphinx is the leader of the Knights of the Dawn. And so they have to talk about, you know, possible ramifications of that, because if the Sphinx is a traitor, he's the leader of the Knights of the Dawn and part of the society, but if he's not, he is trying to help, and so, like, they have to try and, like, you know, reason their way into being like, is this actually a good thing for Kendra to become a part of the Knights, or is it just like a trap? And
even besides that, even if A, the Sphinx isn't a traitor, or B, he isn't the leader of the Knights of the Dawn, they do have a confirmed case of a traitor in the Knights of the Dawn, and Vanessa.
Yeah, Vanessa was a knight, and so...
a highly respected, well-regarded knight who, like, had no suspicious
prior,
activity.
Yeah.
No prior
no prior suspicions that she was a traitor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so even if the Sphinx isn't a factor, that is. Mm-hmm. But I do really love how they reason through it. How, like, in the end, it comes like down to, how do we not place ourselves in suspicion for knowing who the Sphinx is? Mm-hmm. And what they reason is, like, if we didn't suspect the Sphinx at all, we would not hesitate to say Kendra needs to go. Like, they wouldn't find an excuse. They wouldn't say just no. They would say, oh, yes, she needs to go because there's nowhere she'd be safer. And so, due to that, they say, fine. And then, of course, Seth has to be snarky and be like, well, I guess there's only one problem left then. How do I get invited?
Yeah. And it's funny because during this whole thing, when they talk about the Knights of the Dawn, up until that point, Seth and Kendra only knew that Warren was a knight. And then all of a sudden, Tanu and Coulter and even Grandpa are like, oh yeah, we're like, Grandpa's retired, but he was a part of the Knights of the Dawn, and then like Coulter and Tanu are also part of the Knights of the Dawn. And Seth is like, wait, you're a knight too? You're a knight too? Wait, how do I join this? Kendra gets to be a knight? Why don't I get to be invited to this? And so it's kind of funny how he's again feeling like left out and being like, wait, I want to go do cool missions and stuff. And so I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah. So and then after that, Kendra starts reading Patton's journal.
Yeah.
Super sweet part. Like, his last paragraph, or not the last one. After all, like, he's, like, describing how she fought off her sisters and rescued him, and, like, he's just, like, the way he describes it is just so poetic and just gorgeous. Love it. And then it's like, after all, what is immortality when confined to a sad little pond with such petty companions? I will unveil wonders to her that others of her kind have never imagined. She shall be my queen, and I her most ardent admirer and protector. I mean, come on!
Like, who?
That's only a sample.
That is, like, a crazy way to talk, but, like, crazy, like, intriguing and, like, very good. I don't know, like,
you
prose.
can tell, like, he is just,
this
like,
guy's passionate.
over the moon.
Yeah.
Passionate Patton.
Passionate Patton, yes. He is passionate. He is the kind of person that puts his whole person into things.
Mm-hmm. And we love it. Mm-hmm. History will not be imitated. Rather, a new standard of love shall be established for the ages. Time will certify my devotion. On this I would gladly stake my very soul. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's like, wow. It's like a poet.
Mm-hmm. I didn't even know it. But then, of course, Seth has to come in and kind of ruin it.
Seth is like, only nerds read. Like, he just starts, like, making fun of Kendra for reading. And then she's like...
She tortures him with, like, oh, yeah, but I'm finding out about these cool, dark places in Fablehaven, like this tar pit and this place. And Seth's like, wait, what? She's like, you could read and find out. He's like, haha, no. But I'm going to find it anyways.
Yeah.
But Oh my gosh, I love this zinger that Kendra has. Like, Seth is, like, totally bored because at this point he's, like, stuck in the house, like, and just, like, he's still being watched pretty carefully, even before Grandpa knows about the Nipsey thing. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I'm so bored. And Kendra says, I'm not bored. I'm going to Atlanta, which is where the meeting between the Knights of the Dawn is taking place. And Seth just is so pissed by that remark. He's like, low blow.
He is fuming.
Oh, love that. Like, he's like, how many revenants have you destroyed? Why did you get an invite but not me? Kendra's like, oh, I haven't destroyed any, but I did take down a demon, a witch, a huge winged, acid-breathing, three-headed panther. Just to name a few.
And then Seth is like, I'm still mad I missed seeing the panther. Like, he's still bitter about that.
I love how he has matured just a bit, but at the same time, he is still just Seth.
Yeah, he's still, like, he desperately wants to be part of the action and the adventure.
And he's also crap at keeping secrets.
Yeah, then he literally says, like, I have a secret. And then Kendra, who is, like, slyly trying to be, like, you know,
she knows
learning the secret, she just pretends to, like, not be interested and, like, continue reading. She's like, oh, cool, you know? But, like, he, like, continues to talk about it. And he says, have you ever heard of the Nipseys? She's like, oh, no. They're the smallest fairy people. They build little cities and stuff. They're about half an inch tall, the size of tiny bugs.
Cool.
And, yeah, and she's still pretending. And then Seth
I love how she's doing it, like, on purpose. She's feigning disinterest.
Yeah.
Knowing that it's not going to take him that long to crack. She's like, she knows exactly how to get to him.
She knows how to get stuff out of him. And then he says, if you knew something that might be dangerous, but telling people about it could get you in trouble and make you lose a lot of money, would you tell anyone?
And immediately, Grandpa, Seth has a secret to tell you about the Nipseys.
Seth's like, you're a traitor.
I just love this also exchange. I'm just helping smart Seth defeat idiot Seth. I guess smart Seth is glad, Seth said reluctantly, but be careful. Idiot Seth is the guy to watch out for.
Yeah. I love that Seth is like, yeah, you're right. I am an idiot sometimes. But
at the same time, I'll be coming for you.
Yeah. So I love that. And then it goes to Grandpa interrogating Seth about the Nipseys, being like, so, the Nipseys, they're really far from the yard and not really known. How do you know about them?
Satyrs talk, you know, Grandpa. Yeah. They told me, they described, like, this very specific situation that I definitely did not see with my own eyes. No, never.
Yeah, and Grandpa does not buy a word of that.
Of course.
And so when he starts, Seth knows that this is like something important, and so like he tells Grandpa about the Nipseys and how they're dark. They're like physically like dark, and like the way that they act is completely different from the other Nipseys. And Grandpa's like, this is very strange. But, you know, like, he like tells Seth, like, you're doing the right thing by coming to me, but you got the information in the wrong way because you still broke the rules. And so we go back to Seth and Grandpa, you know, butting heads about the rules and, like, what Seth can and cannot do.
But in a much more mature way.
Yes.
Seth is not just being, like, like a whiny child and being like, oh, but I want to go. It sounds cool. He's giving good points. He's like, I know how to handle myself. I've been learning from Tanu and Coulter. Whereas Grandpa is like, but how can I trust you to keep the big rules? Like, how can I trust you not to go into the more dangerous, more enticing areas if I can't trust you to stay within the yard now? He's like, I would have given you more freedom if you could prove to me that you were willing to obey these simple rules.
Yeah.
And Seth's like, huh. I just love this conversation just because it really does show the maturity that Seth has grown and also the understanding now that Grandpa has of Seth. Like, he's like, I know how this boy operates now. I know how to handle him. Kendra has probably been giving him some pointers.
Yeah, just coaching him, being like, this is what you should and should not do. But I like this conversation between them because, like you said, it shows, like, Seth's more maturity. But also, as I was, like, listening to the book, I was, like, thinking about how this is just, like, a part of Seth growing up. And how, like, you know, when kids start to get a little older, they want a little more freedom, given this is a place where more freedom could get you killed. But I just think that's a really interesting, like, conversation because Seth, having had a little bit more experience with magical creatures, thinks that he could take on a lot more than maybe he could, but also I think it's that like Grandpa doesn't think that he could take on more. So it's just kind of like this like example of a child growing up wanting more independence, and then basically grandparent being like, I don't think you're ready for that, but like you need to learn these rules before I can give you more independence. So I was like, yeah. It's kind of like, Seth's growing up.
I love the fact that it's not just a blanket no. Yeah. It's like, I will allow you to have this freedom if you follow the process. If you stay between the lines so that I know that when I let you loose, it'll be safe for you.
Yeah. And that's how you know Seth hasn't matured completely, because he still refuses to keep the rules that he should be in order to advance to the more advanced rules.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do also love that Seth is, like, also admitting his faults. He's like, I know I've made mistakes. I've made horrible mistakes. Mm-hmm. Fablehaven has also almost fallen because of me.
Yeah.
But he's like, but I've learned from it, and I now know what not to do. To the point where, like, he is right. Like, he is able to adventure from the yard and be safe about it. He knows what to do, what to do, and what not to do when dealing with the satyrs. He is turning into a very savvy businessman as well. I do really like the conversation in this chapter. It does feel very mature.
Yeah.
And earned.
Yeah, you see the growth of Seth, and I like that. I do like at the end, he's like, can I get time off for good behavior?
When that
like,
miracle occurs.
He's just like in negotiating mode.
And I love it, Grandpa's answer. You never know what might happen should that miracle ever occur. They both know that that's
not gonna happen.
Not most likely. Like, possible, but not likely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the next portion of the chapter, we have the plot thickening with the darkness, where now fairies are, like, Kendra overhears fairies talking about the possibility of being both dark and beautiful, as opposed to, like, when they were imps, they were just dark and ugly. Mm-hmm. But, like, they're like, well, what if we could still be beautiful? And it seems clear that, like, some fairies are kind of into the idea, whereas others are not, which is interesting. Yeah. I enjoy that, though. Mm-hmm.
And then right after that, Tanu and Coulter, Grandpa had sent Tanu and Coulter to go investigate the Nipsies to see these, like, what the problem was. And then they come back, and then they tell Grandpa more about it. And they're like, yeah, Seth was right. They are definitely different, and it is spreading to other, like, Nipsey kingdoms, like, the darkness is spreading. And they also saw this, like,
fallen dwarf.
Like, dark figure, which, they figured out was, like, a fallen dwarf, but dwarves don't have fallen states either. And so they're just like, crap, this is spreading around. And then Kendra mentions the fairies, and so they see that it's affected dwarves and Nipsies and fairies already,
Who else could be next?
Yeah. And then I love this part where Tanu, like, when Grandpa, like, leaves the room, Tanu, like, beckons Seth over, and he's like, I saw some footprints near the Nipsies that makes it seem that you used Hugo to get to the Nipsies. And Seth is like, please don't tell Grandpa. And Tanu's like,
yeah, we would have already if we were going to.
Yeah, if I was going to tell him, I already would have. And then he looks at Kendra. He's like, can you keep this secret?
She's like, sure. I've already fulfilled my quota of ratting on Seth for today. I'm good for a while.
Yeah, basically. They were like, yeah, we knew you were already in hot water. But next time, don't use Hugo for your little
excursions.
Yeah. So I like that part. It's just like, Tanu and Coulter have Seth's back. And then, so the next chapter is Kendra and company going to Atlanta for the Knights of the Dawn gathering. And it's all very secretive. It's really interesting, kind of weird that how, like, the lengths that the knights go to remain secret. They get in a limo to, like, drive out to where they're having the gathering, and Tanu brings out these, like, robes and masks and gloves even that they have to, like, put on, so they're literally, like, all wearing disguises.
Completely obscured from,
yeah,
like, identification.
And I was like, out of context, this would kind of feel like a cult or something. Like, it's a little weird.
In context, it still kind of feels like one.
Yeah, that's true. It's just like, this is weird. Does anyone not think this is weird? Like, this feels like...
Gavin does, apparently.
Red flags. True.
All right, so, but once we get in here, the chapter is called, this is chapter 4, it's called New Knights, and we find out why very quickly, as Kendra is not the only new knight being inducted into the convent, into the cult.
The society, not society.
The Knights of the Dawn. Knights of the Dawn. We also meet another teen, I believe he's 18? No, 16?
He's 16, he's not 18.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're right, 16, because Kendra's 14 and about
she's
15.
14, yes.
That it is, yeah. So Gavin, who is 16, who has undisclosed talents, as well as Estelle, who is apparently like an old woman and is like an archivist, so go her.
Yeah, good for you. You never come back again.
So we also have like a speech from the captain of the Knights of the Dawn, the head honcho, who is like saying like, this is a treacherous time. We have confirmed the fact that there was a traitor in our midst, Vanessa.
Yeah. Vanessa.
And also he's like, I have dismissed nearly 20 knights from the ranks, which is substantial considering I think there were like 50 at the meeting. And this is like for every single, like every person was required to attend except for very rare circumstances.
Yeah, I would say there's probably not more than 100 knights at most.
And he dismissed 17 for questionable circumstances.
Yeah.
And then drops a bomb saying that he asks that every single knight bring forward information on the secret preserves. And I do love that this random knight, we don't even know who he is, but he's sitting at Kendra's table, mask on and everything, says, I was afraid of this. Like, right after that announcement is made. Like, it's just, like, something subtle. And it's just, like, because, like, you hear, like, the muttering of the crowd. And I just find that very, very interesting. That not everybody is happy about this. Not everybody is confident in the fact that, like, in like, the integrity of the Knights of the Dawn.
Yeah, that they're suspicious that there were traitors. And I feel like this just adds to, like, the secrecy of their, like, not saying why they were all dismissed. You know, he doesn't say that, like, all of them were traitors. And it's just, you know, suspicious all around.
Because, of course, this also, like, this, one way or another, if the Sphinx is a traitor, it benefits him. If he's the captain or if he's not the captain. Which we leave being undetermined by because the one guy we have who knows for sure denies it. He's like, no, it's not. But even if he isn't, like, they all know that for a fact that the Sphinx shares information with the Knights of the Dawn and receives information in return. So... yeah,
they're sure he definitely has informants, at least. He has informants in the Knights of the Dawn, and so even if he wasn't the captain, he would still be getting the info.
And so either way, this benefits him, either if he is the bad guy or if he's the or not. So yeah, I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, and that also like points out that like the knights are also actively trying to get the artifacts and like collect them. And again, if the Sphinx is the head, that means good or not, he would have access to all the artifacts, and that's a lot of power for one person. So.
And I also do appreciate that, like, even after this, like, Dugan, who is their contact at the Knights of the Dawn, it's the lieutenant. So it was like he's one of the 4 lieutenants that kind of oversees like a quarter of the knights.
Yeah. Also, Dugan is Maddox's brother, so it's Dugan Fisk.
Fact.
Yeah. So that's interesting.
Which is why we thought maybe Errol Fisk from book 2 was like, oh, long lost cousin there.
Yeah, something like that, but no.
But he gives Kendra her first assignment almost immediately, which is like, and he said like, this is why we inducted her, is because we have need of her skills immediately, because guess who knows that she's fairy kind, the Sphinx. And so he either if he's not the leader, told his leader, or he is the leader and says, oh, I need her. And so,
and it's to go to one of the secret preserves and get an artifact.
Yep. And be prepared to charge it if necessary. And so She does. So, like, she and Warren debate about it.
Yeah. Well,
for a very long time.
Yeah, Warren is like,
your grandpa is going to kill me.
Yeah. Well, also, he's, like, debating with Dugan of, like, first of all, I have to go because I'm not going to let her go alone. She's a minor. She's only 14. This is her first assignment. And, like, I promised her grandfather that I would, like, she would not leave my sight. And, like, Dugan is like, I will talk to the captain about that. But, like, Warren is, like, not letting up on this. And then when Dugan leaves the room, Warren is, like, making plans with Kendra, being like, I don't like first of all, the interest that they're all showing in you. And second of all, the fact that they're going after the artifacts this hard because, like, no one should have all of them, or, like, no one should have more than one because they already have
the entire point
more than one.
Of separating them.
Exactly. And so Warren is even now making a plan to, like, if they get the artifact, he might have to try and steal it away, you know, just to, like, not let someone have all the cards in their hand. And so it's just intrigue and spies and stuff like this.
I also love that when he's making his case to Dugan, he's like, besides, I am something of a curse breaker myself. He's like, you know I'm good.
He's like, you know, I can do this. I got stabbed and
well, Dugan doesn't know that.
Acid, yeah.
Dugan doesn't know about the fact that the Fablehaven artifact has been found.
That's true.
But I do just enjoy the fact that Warren's just like, you know I'm good. You know I can help out.
Come on. That's like Patton coming down through the generations into him being like, I know I'm an adventurer.
You know you want me.
I'm pretty good. You're gonna want me along because right now all you're saying is that it's gonna be you, 2 teenagers, and like 1 or 2 people at the preserve. And he's like,
one of whom is gravely injured and, as we find out later, lost a leg.
Yeah. So
it's clearly not gonna be any help.
Yeah. So Warren's like, you could use me. Uh-huh. So I love that too.
All right. So yeah.
And also at the meeting for the knights, the place that they were at was like this big mansion of these like rich people, and they collect fairies. And Kendra ends up in this like courtyard. She like goes out a door and ends up in this courtyard where there's a bunch of fairies, and she starts talking to them and trying to be like, do you know anything about, you know, the Knights of the Dawn or anything about secret preserves or artifacts? She's like trying to like talk to them. And she learns that she can like command fairies. Like if she like commands them in the name of the queen, that they will have to obey her. And so she like kind of learns like more of like her like authority, I guess, of being fairy kind.
And I also love like, because like at Fablehaven it's been shown that she kind of gets the cold shoulder.
Yeah.
Like she's too popular now among the fairies of Fablehaven because she was shown as being so highly favored of the queen. Mm-hmm. But now she's going to a separate group of fairies who, even though they are so far removed from Fablehaven, have still heard of her.
That's
like,
true,
She takes off her mask and they're like, holy crap, it's you.
Yeah, I know. That's something I noticed too when she takes off her mask. So like, it's you. And I'm like, wait, how do you know what she looks like? It's probably
fairy
because magic. She is like glowing. Like they say that she just like glows with magical power.
And they're like, it's true then. The queen has chosen a mortal handmaiden. I really like how they put that because the handmaidens are traditionally referred, like, the handmaidens of the queen are the fairies themselves. Mm-hmm. And so, like, the fact that, like, I just really love that, like, Kendra's now handmaid. And I love how Kendra's like, I'm what now?
Yeah, she's like, what do you mean?
Where is the induction handbook?
Yeah, she's like, there's not a job description for this thing.
I need an orientation here.
Yeah. Just like a booklet, like, I don't know.
Bullet point, PowerPoint, list something.
Yeah, she's like, I don't even know what this means. She's just kind of learning it as she goes from, like, different fairies and stuff, which is kind of funny. Mm-hmm. She's not prepared for this job.
Be prepared. I do not feel prepared. But also, can I just... So Kendra is being sent to the preserve in Arizona. Can I just say, I'm from Arizona.
And you lived, it's on, like, Navajo Reservation. You lived, like, near there
very, very close for a good chunk of my childhood. And so I'm just like, representation.
There you go.
And so, like, the Lost Mesa, it just makes me happy, especially, like, later on when we get there. It feels close to home, you know?
It's great.
So, yeah. Hee hee.
So, yes, lots of suspiciousness intrigue and, you know, questions come up from the new knights and their meeting. And so Coulter and Tanu have to return to Fablehaven without Kendra and Warren. And when they get back, Grandpa's not happy about it.
I love the end of chapter 4 with Kendra's last statement. She's like, because she's like, she knows that Tanu and Coulter have to go back. She's like, she feels a little sorry for Tanu and Coulter because no matter how they were going to explain this for Grandma and Grandpa, they were going to be furious.
Yeah.
And she's right.
She's like, I don't have to face that fury. That's not my problem.
Unfortunately, though, it's Seth's.
It is Seth's.
Whose punishment for going out to the Nipsies is doubled down and increased upon because they're fretting over Kendra, they are now going to bear down harder on Seth.
Yeah, now they're being more strict with Seth. So his punishment for going seeing the Nipsies is technically over, but they have not let him out of the yard, and he is like under like constant supervision by Mendigo. And so this chapter kind of opens up. It's kind of fun because it's so creative because Seth is playing baseball with Mendigo. He's like having Mendigo pitch to him. He's pitching Mendigo and he like hits it wherever. And since, you know, this is a puppet that just takes orders, he like Mendigo can like throw it any way that he wants, hit it any way that he wants, and like do like anything. And so like I thought that was like a really like fun way to use Mendigo, play baseball with him.
It makes sense. Like Seth is like, I am bored out of my mind. You gotta let me do something. And so Grandpa was probably like, fine. Mendigo take orders from Seth for a while. Keep him to the yard.
Mm-hmm. And like Seth is like, Mendigo's just basically babysitting me and making sure I don't leave the yard.
Well, and he also ends up saving your life, son.
So yeah, while he's playing baseball,
we see dark fairies, not imps or anything else. Dark fairies who go to swarm it. I love like Seth initially being panicked because Mendigo is just charging him for it seems to be like no reason.
Yeah, he like drops his mitt and starts running at him.
Mendigo, stop! What are you doing? Put me down! But like Mendigo just grabs him and starts just charging for the house,
booking it.
And not a moment too soon because like as they're going, dark fairies start attacking, shooting dark streams of energy, trying to hit them, and they manage to get to the house though, where only Grandpa is at this point. Tanu and Coulter are off scouting out new locations for the Nipsies to live, the healthy, light Nipsies.
The good Nipsies, yeah.
And Grandma's out getting groceries off of the preserve.
And like Dale's like at the stables, so it's only Grandpa.
And so Grandpa's like, okay, Mendigo, you go get Dale. I'll go call your grandma. Seth, you keep an eye out. I absolutely adore this part. Because after Grandpa leaves and Mendigo leaves, Seth realizes that this is the first time he's been unsupervised for a while. And he has the urge. He says, he's like, I want to run out and I want to go and explore and like be with Newell and Doran and actually have some fun and finally cast off this overprotective, like, hovering. But in that moment, he also says, no. After the scare with the fairies, after everything that's going on, he's like, Grandpa is right, and I need to step up. And I'm like, yes, right there. That is character development.
Yes, he is growing. He suppresses the urge to run into the woods because he knows it would just cause more problems. And he's like, we can't deal with this right now. And something interesting is like while he's sitting out there, he sees Tanu, but Tanu is in a gaseous state. And he is like, well, okay, first of all, what happened? Where's Coulter? And so, like, Tanu can't talk because he's in a gaseous state. So he gets him in the house, and he calls Grandpa, and they have to kind of do, like, a yes-no answer thing.
Because all he can do is nod, shake his head, use his fingers.
And so they start talking, and Seth mentions the dark fairies that attacked him, and Tanu starts pointing at him and is like, oh, that's what attacked you too, right? And so then they figure out that Tanu and Coulter were also attacked by the dark fairies. And then when Tanu, like, turns back into, like, a person, you know, solid, he tells them that, yes, they were attacked by the dark fairies because they saw a group of fairies, light and dark, that were kind of, like, battling and fighting each other. And that the dark fairies were turning the light ones to dark. But then once they, like, entered, like, the meadow where they were, the dark fairies started attacking them. And then they got Coulter with some of like the dark, energy or whatever that they were throwing around, and he just disappeared.
No, they said he said specifically that they started biting him.
Oh, you're right. So they bit Coulter, and he just disappeared. And Tanu does not know anything else other than that. He doesn't know if he's dead. He doesn't know if he turned invisible, but he doesn't think he turned invisible because he didn't see any signs of his impressions in the ground or anything. He doesn't know what happened. Just that they bit him, and then he disappeared. And then he drank the gaseous potion
just in time.
And so then he came back to the yard. And they don't know anything else than that.
Yeah. And I love that we have also this moment real quick with Grandpa Sorensen, where he just he has a little breakdown for a good reason.
Yeah.
He was good friends with Coulter, who, for all they know, he could be dead.
It's like his oldest friend. Yeah.
This is the third time in less than 12 months that Fablehaven has been put in jeopardy. Okay, maybe 15 months, but still.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, is this on me?
Yeah, he's like, am I jinxed or cursed or something?
Am I doing something wrong?
Yeah.
And I love how Seth immediately comes to his defense and says, no, the first time, that was on me.
Mm-hmm.
Second time, that was on Vanessa.
Yeah.
We don't know what's wrong this time, but I know for a fact it ain't you.
Yeah, I love that part because Seth and Tanu and Dale, who was also brought back by Bendigo by this point, are all like, it's not your fault. I love that. I love Seth's thing being like, no, that was my fault the first time. And then I love Tanu, who says, I know a lot of people in the magical community, and there's no one else that I trust more than you to take care of Fablehaven. And they're all just trying to reassure Grandpa. And I feel like Grandpa's feelings are very valid because it just feels like one crisis after another. And he's also super worried about Kendra being gone off, and then all this crisis happening at Fablehaven. It just seems like all these things are happening at once, and it's out of their control completely. And so I totally get his feelings of, inadequacy and feeling like, it's his fault, even though it's not.
But I really like that after he gets, he needed this moment to kind of, break down a little bit, and, his friends and family help build him back up to the point, okay, now he's ready. He's like, okay. Now he's back in control, back in charge, and says, okay, next step, we're going to go talk to Vanessa.
Mm-hmm.
They have been resisting that urge for almost 2 months now, I believe.
Yeah.
Because they're just too worried. They're worried that she's too dangerous. But now they're like, okay, we have no choice. Let's see what she knows.
Yeah. They're like, we have no answers. We got to talk to her.
And I love how we show once again just how good of a spy she is. She comes out and she's just acting all nonchalant, how long has it been? Man, that felt weird. I'm going to do some stretching. Yeah, I know. I entered a trance. You killed me. Yada, yada, yada. And, they just start, asking her, what do you know? How do you know this? And she's like, well, it's kind of easy. Once you start putting it together, it's, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And then I love how she immediately puts together, then she's like, now let me guess. You are currently facing a crisis that will probably leave you guys all dead and Fablehaven fallen. And somehow the Sphinx managed to manipulate it so that Kendra is not here while that's happening. And I just love how everybody just looks at her dumbstruck,
how did you know that?
And she's like, I may not know how he does it, but he falls into a pattern.
He operates the same way.
I love how she describes it. She's like, whenever the Sphinx does his stuff, he destroys all the evidence, and then just to be safe, he burns down the neighborhood as well.
Mm-hmm.
He covers his tracks immaculately.
Yeah. And it's because she also suspects that the Sphinx suspects that she told them about his possible betrayal. And so she's saying that this is his way of covering his tracks. And, he's got what he wanted out of Fablehaven. He got the artifact. And now, supposedly, he has Kendra where he wants her.
And he doesn't have any use for Fablehaven. So he said, might as well just add him to heck in a handbasket.
Yeah.
Man, love that.
And then when they describe it, she's like the shadow plague. She's like, I've never heard. That's really interesting. This is another. I never know how he's gonna do it, but this is sounds like some kind of thing that is gonna be the end of Fablehaven, and you all should just leave right now because you're not gonna be able to stop it.
My bad. Yeah, I love how she's like, honestly, at this point, just put me back in the box.
Yeah, she's like, I'm
safer in the
there.
box. And I noticed that Grandma is much more like venomous. Like she is not
any crap.
Nothing. Like she does not trust Vanessa any farther than she can throw her.
Honestly, that's smart of her. And also, but there's this part where Vanessa says that, like, she has a really big secret, but she will only tell them if it will lead to her release from the quiet box for good. And so that's just another way of her dangling information to lead to her hopeful, like, release from the quiet box.
I do appreciate that. Like, we know she is not currently a good guy. She is not a good guy right now. She is a scorned woman who is trying to do her best to get back at the one who betrayed her.
She's still playing her spy thing. She knows exactly how much to share and what to share in order to still keep the advantage.
And she knows for a fact that she holds all the cards at this point.
Yeah.
She is their key to proving that the Sphinx is a traitor.
Mm-hmm.
She is their key to figuring out like how to save Fablehaven. And she is their they hate the fact that they need her.
Yeah, they have to rely on her for the Sphinx playbook.
And she is just riding along and just like, yeah, I know.
She's so smug. And then there's this part where, like, when they put her back into the quiet box, she's just, like, so smug because she just, like, knows how the Sphinx goes.
Yeah, at this point, she's figured out everything. Like, she even knows at this point that Kendra's in Arizona at the Lost Preserve.
Yeah.
And they're like, we didn't how?
Yeah, she keeps figuring this thing out. And she's just so smug. And Grandma is, like, so fed up. And so...
Here, I'll do Vanessa, you do Grandma.
Okay.
Vanessa's like, fine. Like, she's about to go back in the box. Good luck with the Sphinx. Good luck with the plague. And good luck with seeing Kendra again. Turns around and goes back into the box.
And good luck with ever getting out of there.
Grandma says.
Slams the door in her face. And I just love that. She's just like, shut up. Stop being smug. You're stuck in there. Like, stop.
Stop trying to manipulate us.
Yeah.
Like, I love how Grandma's just like as much as hate that Vanessa has for the Sphinx, that's about what, like, Grandma's feeling for Vanessa right now. She's like, I don't care that you're useful. I do not like you.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that you're trying to use us against each other, use us to get yourself free, and I am not going to let you do this. I'm not going to let you manipulate us with using our fears. We are going to solve this on our own. Mm-hmm. And I love how, like, that must put take a little wind out of her sails, because she was like, oh, darn it, I was hoping they'd release me and let me help them.
Yeah.
And possibly backstab them while I was at it. Darn.
Definitely backstab them. So, yeah. There's just so many more mysteries happening because they don't know what the plague is, how to stop it, where it came from, and if the Sphinx is a traitor. You know, there's so many unknowns at this point in these first 6 chapters. And this is just really, like, setting up the rest of the book. So I really like these first 6 chapters because I think it does good of, like, starting off from the bomb that was dropped in the end of the last one and kind of how they're dealing with it. And then it gets us into, like, the plot of this one.
Very quickly, I think.
Yeah, very quickly. The first chapter.
Like, we're at, like, chapter... Like, I think in chapter 5 is when we lose Coulter. No, we lose Coulter in chapter 6. And, like...
Yeah, that was fast.
Like, there are stakes right off the bat.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. Like, did you have to wait for this book? Like, when it came out?
Oh.
Like, in between 2 and 3?
I think I started reading Fablehaven right around when this one came out.
Okay.
I don't remember no. I waited for the 4th one, but I don't think I waited to read this one.
I feel bad for the people who had to wait for this book. Like,
yeah.
Like, that is a bad cliffhanger to end on, with, like, one of the most trusted advisors being, like, cast in suspicion. Mm-hmm. Whew.
Like, the whole thing with the Knights of the Dawn. Because, like, I feel like in the first 2 books, you hear about the Society and the Knights of the Dawn, and you kind of see, like, you think of, oh, the Society is the bad guys, you know, they're literally evening star, you know, darkness, and then you have the Knights of the Dawn, who are supposed to be the good guys, yeah, the sun, happiness, light. But then in this book, you kind of...
You don't really like the Knights.
It's kind of like thrown a wrench in that, because the Knights are super secretive. They don't let everyone know everyone else. They don't know the identity of the captain. They only know the identity of their, like, lieutenant and, like, some of the other people. Yeah, their immediate superior and, like, some of the people in their group. When they do have meetings, they're all in disguise. Like, there's so much secrecy. And then they find out that some of them are traitors. Like, it doesn't seem like a good guy kind of group. But yeah, it's just kind of interesting because, like, you expect them to be, you know, the good guys. And you're like, what? This doesn't feel like the good guys. Because they have questionable motives.
He's like a vampire Spider-Man with claws, but he's also a good guy. He doesn't sound like a good guy. Like, that's honestly what's happening here. Like, it's like this secret organization with a lot of secrecy, masks, and dark robes. They don't sound like the good guys.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally the exact same thing. But yeah.
Yeah, this is interesting. Any Seth or Warren or Kendra-isms that we haven't mentioned?
Well, we mentioned a lot of this. Yeah. Kendra's. I think I got most of my Seths in.
There's one of Seth's that I really like. Let me find it. The page.
I've got one or two for Warren while you're working on it.
All right, do Warren.
He's just such a, like, I love him just because he's such a dork at times, even though he is still, like, a total, like he'll take care of business.
Yeah.
Like, when they're first, like, sitting down to talk after Tanu and Warren get back, and, like, Seth is, like, fawning over Tanu because he was injured. He was at a fallen preserve in Brazil. It sounds so cool. And Warren's like, I'm here too. I had some close calls, really cool ones. And Seth's like, yeah, cool, fine enough. And, like, Warren's like, I could have almost died. Like, why can't you just give me some, like, respect? Drink water. Hello. And I just love Dale's no nonsense. Sit down, cut it out. And I just love Warren's little pout. Like, you're no fun.
Yeah, he's like, let me do my theatrics. Like, this is what I do.
This is literally my shtick.
It's so funny.
Yeah, and then the other one is when they're getting into when they've just flown into the airport. And let me see. Trying to find the exact one. They just flown into the airport, and, like, they're waiting for they're heading towards the baggage claim and to get to their ride, and they see, like, a chauffeur with a card, like, with a name card, and it says Tanuka Toa, which is Tanu's full name, and Warren just goes, "Why isn't my name on the side?"
It's such a Warren thing to say.
It's so petty.
It's also a Seth thing to say. Like, I'm like, they're very similar.
Yes, they could be brothers.
Yeah, honestly.
So easily.
Yeah. Mine's in chapter 6 when Tanu's talking about, like, where him and Coulter were. And he says, we were investigating that crescent-shaped meadow near where the Forgotten Chapel used to stand. You know the one. Sure, Dale said. Grandpa nodded. I would if I was ever allowed to explore, Seth grumbled. He's just like, you know, I would know what you're talking about if you ever let me go out of the yard and explore places.
Look at the record show. He is becoming more mature. But he's still himself.
He's still bitter. He's just like, come on. Let me.
He's mature when it counts.
Yeah.
Just like Warren. When it comes down to it, he's got the stuff. Mm-hmm. But when he doesn't, he's a 5-year-old.
Yeah. He's just like,
why is my name on the side? Why did
Yeah, so
I
funny.
love it. Oh my gosh, they are such children, and I feel like
so great.
I honestly feel like Brandon Mull gave us Warren because Seth was so well received, and so he's like, well, what if we aged him up like 10 years?
Yeah.
And then we'd have a real zinger.
Future self. Okay, also something that I didn't notice before is that Kendra is, like, thinking, I don't remember exactly what part. It's, like, when she's at, like, the Knights meeting, she like, is thinking in her head that only Grandpa, Grandma, and Seth know that she's fairy kind, which means Warren doesn't even know that she's fairy kind.
But I'm 90% sure she told him during the second book. Like, at the end. Like, she's like, I'm this. Like, well, maybe she doesn't say it specifically, but she does say, like, I can see in the dark, I can read all fairy languages, yada, yada, yada.
Okay, so maybe that was
recharge magical objects. And as far as I know, that is not a ability known to Fairy Struck.
But you could say that, Fairy Struck is also very uncommon, so the normal person wouldn't even know that the abilities of Fairy Struckness.
Okay, so I'd have to fact check the book too.
Yeah, maybe that was just a mistake, or maybe she doesn't actually say fairy kind. I don't know.
She definitely details her abilities to Warren, who at this point I bet is smart enough to have figured it out.
Yeah.
And I mean, they do avoid saying anything to Tanu and Coulter and Vanessa in the last book.
Mm-hmm. So
maybe?
I don't know. That was just like, let me find it where she says that. Where she's like thinking.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I was like, wait, what do you mean Warren doesn't know your fairy kind? I was like, what?
If they can't trust Warren, who can they trust?
Honestly, though. So then does she say fairy, or does she say she has powers from the fairy queen in the second book?
I don't know. She might say fairy kind, but she might not.
She might just say she has powers from the fairy queen.
She led the fairies in a...
Yeah, because she mentions that she led the fairies.
And that she now has powers because of it.
Yeah, and that's how she convinces Warren to let her go into the tower with him.
Because she could take care of herself.
She can be an asset. So,
but... Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if she does say fairy kind. Interesting.
Intriguing indeed. We'll have to look.
So when does she tell them all? Surely by like the end of this book, I feel like. So yeah, guys, I think that's everything for today. The next chapters will be the next 6 chapters. So starting with Lost Mesa, so we'll get deeper into her assignment.
Preserve,
the Secret Preserve, and see what else is happening at Fablehaven.
Yeah. I love the world building in this one. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Just a side note, once more, guys. Sorry, I'm not feeling too great today. That a lot of that probably transmuted through the recordings, but I hope I'll be better next week or whenever we record again.
It's all good.
Summer's coming to a close, as you all know, so things are gonna get more crazy as usual.
Yeah. We're gonna try and pump out some episodes this month before school starts again, but. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us today on this episode of Knights of the Dawn podcast and for listening to our commentary on the first 6 chapters of Fablehaven, Grip of the Shadow Plague.
Sorry, I thought I was going to sneeze.
No, you're good. I was ready to stop.
It was that close.
I was ready to stop.
Okay, I'm sorry, continue.
No, you're good.
If you keep that in.
Okay. If you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and share it with a friend, and check us out on YouTube. Check out our new YouTube video of our tier list, and leave a comment, a like, subscribe. Remember, you can find this podcast anywhere where you get your podcasts, and email us if you have any questions. You can find our email address is knightsofthedawnpodcast@gmail.com. We just want to thank you all for listening and for any comments and emails that you send us, because we love any and all interaction that you guys give us.
Very, very true.
Thanks all for listening. We hope you all have a great day.
And drink the milk. See you next time.
See ya.